The Richard Roeper Show is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. The digital landscape is changing rapidly, and to compete in today's online business environment, you need that experienced partner. Since 1995, AmericanEagle.com has partnered with companies of all sizes offering web design, web development, e-commerce, mobile apps, and digital marketing, all to drive your overall business's success because they believe that today's online world is your online opportunity. Visit AmericanEagle.com to get started today. That's AmericanEagle.com. Hello, everyone. Let's dive right in. Some entertainment-related news we want to talk about. We're going to have some reviews a little bit later on in the podcast. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that we have a brand new iPhone that's been on the market for a couple of weeks now and a new iOS. And my question for you is, excited about the new iPhone? Are you excited about the new iOS? Or does it feel like we're kind of on this treadmill that's never going to stop until you die? And even then, you're probably still going to get one more new iPhone. For those of you, I know a lot of folks are not iPhone people. You like your Galaxy or your, I don't know, there's a Google phone. There's one that folds. It folds and it unfolds and it does all these things. If you see the ads for all these smartphones, man, everybody's living their best life. They're dancing in musicals down cobblestone streets, and they're on the beach and they're with their friends and they're taking crazy selfies and they have all the greatest friends in the world. It's fantastic. So here's what I have to say about this new. Here's what I have to say about that. First of all, I preface this by saying I'm a huge Apple guy. I have been ever since they started, way back in the day. In current day, I have an iPad, I have a laptop, and of course an iPhone. I love my desktop. And I know some people are like, why do you have a desktop? What's wrong with you? And of course, a lot of people use their desktops, whether it's a Mac or some other, if they're using a PC or whatever. But I love my desktop. It's where I do the vast majority of my work. I've got an iMac, with the big screen. So if I want to look at, now if I'm watching movies or TV series for review, I'll watch them on a larger monitor. But when I'm doing my reviews, I do have the nice 27-inch screen with the decent speakers. Or just usually put on the Bose headphones. Also love the Bose headphones. Sponsorship opportunities are still available here at the Richard Roeper Show, brought to you by AmericanEagle.com with helpful mid-podcast breaks from Portillo's. Anyway, I'm not doing that for that. You know that. But what I love about the desktop is I can call up clips from films or do research and have the two screens going. I love the keyboard, the action of it. So I still love being at a desk with a desktop. I got my iMac. I'm looking up because you can, you toggle on that little Apple icon and it tells you all about your iMac, your desktop. I got my iMac in 2017. So 8 years ago. And I was doing a little troubleshooting about 6 months ago where I thought I was going to have to get the new desktop. I'm like, well, 8 years is a pretty good run, I mean, if you have an iPhone or any kind of smartphone that's 8 years old, that's an antique. But even for the desktop, I thought, that's a pretty good run. And I talked to a helpful person, an Apple tech person, and I mentioned that. I go, wow, it's 2017. You probably don't get a lot of that. And he goes, you'd be surprised, actually, because there are a lot of folks out there using desktops that are 10, 12 years old. And in this day and age of what feels like planned obsolescence, or certainly this encouragement to keep buying the new versions of things, that's a pretty good run. So anyway, so the new iPhone is here. I went back and looked at the timeline. The first iPhone was 2007. And then, almost every year and then every other year, we went through the iPhone 3G and the 4 and the 4S and the SE and the 8. And you get into the late 2000 teens and you got the iPhone XS, the XS Max. I don't even remember what the difference is between a lot of these. And they just keep coming out with new versions of iPhones. And, I have to say, for a long time, I'd get very excited about a new iPhone. Gotta have the bigger screen. Gotta have the improved camera. Oh, there's an iPhone mini. Wait a minute. What's the iPhone Pro Max all about? And oh my goodness, now what are you telling me? There's a 16E and a 17 Pro. So the latest one that came out in September, you can get the iPhone 17, the iPhone 17 Pro, the iPhone 17 Pro Max, the iPhone Air. And of course, you immediately hear from your carrier saying, hey, you can trade in this one. What's it worth? And we'll do this and we'll do that. And I have to say, I don't care. If you need a new one, you want to get a new one, that's fine, but I don't care anymore. The thrill is gone. There was a time there, the iPod, the first iPhone, the iPad, there would be all these amazing announcements. And now it's sort of like, okay, that's great. It's a little bit better, does certain things. We always hear with the new iPhones too about the camera, because of course we all love taking pictures with our phones and 8 million photos. And I would humbly suggest to those of you out there, if you haven't done this recently, it's a cleansing feeling, not just for your phone, but for your spirit, to go through old photos and videos and delete, delete, delete. You'll find that you have all kinds of duplicates, and there are ways of finding those duplicates and deleting them. And then also, why do I need 17 pictures of the same dinner? And what is even this photo of this sunset? All very fun and fine, and you can have them on your Instagram, or you might have shared them on Facebook. You don't need them on your phone. Get rid of the clutter. But the thing is, back in the day, before the smartphones really had any camera to speak of. Now, that's great when you watch movies from the late 90s and early 2000s. People will be taking, or sitcoms too, they're taking photos on their phones, because you could put 10 photos on your phone and they were very grainy. They look like the Zapruder film, hopefully with not any presidential assassination involved. But it was still so cool. And now, obviously the phones, the photos are great. The videos are impressive, and you can do all kinds of enhancements and editing and, eliminate your ex from a wedding photo or whatever if you want to. You still can't take a decent picture of the moon or an eclipse or anything like that. So don't do it, because it looks like shit. But I tell you, I used to walk around with this little digital Canon ELPH camera that could literally fit in your pocket. It was smaller than a pack of cigarettes, if you remember what a pack of cigarettes was. And some of you, unfortunately, still do. But yes, and it still is a better quality, I say. The photo itself. Now, it doesn't have all the other capabilities that you could do with sharing and editing, and maybe the video wasn't as great, but the still photos you took 25 years ago with a simple digital camera, I say, I am just doing an eyeball test on them, I think they look better. But the other thing is, now the iOS, we got iOS 26 now, and I just put this on my phone, updated my software. What Apple's doing now, instead of doing numerically, they're doing it by year. So that's why it's iOS 26. Sort of like when you get the new cars, and remember in the fall, you still do. So you can get your new 2026 model in the fall of 2025. And that's what they're doing with the phones as well. They're telling you, hey, this is going to be the iOS for the next year or so, probably maybe one upgrade. But I have to say the same thing. Every time you look at this and you read the features, and I'm all for, hey, look at this and look at that. And sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I could just go back to the old way. Every time you look at this, you feel like, yeah, but is it really such a huge deal? Is it really that much of an improvement? So I'm reading this piece. This is from KTLA in Los Angeles, actually, going over some of the new updates. They're calling it Apple's biggest iPhone software update in years. It's here, exciting. There's a thing called liquid glass, which is a bold new design. And then I'm just going to go through a couple of these features with you guys, because this kind of, I think, augments my point that it's a little underwhelming. In Messages, you can now create a poll. Tap the plus sign next to the message box, selects polls, and type in your options. So now you can go on your chat group and bother your friends with a poll. Are the Bears going to make the playoffs? Yes, no, I don't care. You can already do polls on Twitter and other places. So snoozing in the clock app, you're no longer stuck with a 9-minute snooze. You can choose anywhere from 1 to 15 minutes for some extra Z's. Yes, because all these years I've been saying, damn it, what if I don't want the 9-minute snooze? I want a 7-minute snooze, and it won't do it. You can turn your photos into 3D photos by tapping the spatial icon. There's different ringtone things. So, it's like everything else. You get used to it at first, because at first you look at it, you go, I think I kind of like the old way. But when I'm looking at these are the huge features, it's a little underwhelming. So if you got a new iPhone or you're playing around with the iOS 26, enjoy. But I feel like the bloom is off the rose. The excitement and the thrill is never going to be the same as it was in the 2000s and even the 2010s. Speaking of retro and going back a little bit, this is a cool story from the Los Angeles Times. Retro movies are becoming big box office. Yes, I love this, especially because I'm, week after week seeing news about another remake. They're doing a Hand That Rocks the Cradle, which was a movie from the early 90s, which wasn't really great. lurid stalker thriller. Good cast, Rebecca De Mornay, I know Annabella Shore, but I don't have any excitement for that. But I do like the idea that people will go to the theaters to see a classic that's been re-released. It's almost always because of an anniversary, and we're in a round a year, if you will. Years that end with zeros and fives get, I think, a lot more attention. We talked about that with anniversaries as well, et cetera, et cetera. So the LA Times points out and reports that over Labor Day weekend, just a few weeks ago, Jaws came in as the second highest grossing movie of the weekend with a domestic opening of $8.2 million, just behind the horror hit Weapons. That's Jaws, which was originally released in 1975, 50 years ago. Steven Spielberg's breakout blockbuster was shown in 3,200 theaters. I didn't realize that. And actually made almost double that, $15 million worldwide. Even more impressive, the 20th anniversary screening of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, did 25 million in its opening weekend and actually raked in another 30 million worldwide. So the total box office gross from the film now is over $900 million. They quote David Berger, who owns the Ojai Playhouse. It's a 111-year-old theater, which is pretty cool. One screen and 200 seats. Says that when studios come to him with a digitally restored classic, he'll see strong attendance. He did a one-time anniversary screening of The Breakfast Club, 125 tickets for just one screening. That's pretty darn good. Obviously you can see these movies in a million different ways. That you can rent them from Prime Video or whatever, or you might already have a streaming service that's part of the subscription. There's physical media. There's so many ways to see them at home, but people want to see it with a group, and that's still that wonderful communal feeling. So I just think that's fantastic. I love hearing that. And I occasionally do screenings, in the Chicago area where we'll show an anniversary version of a classic. Maybe it's restored, this or that. It's cleaned up. The print looks great, but it's just really neat. And I've talked about this before. It's really fun when you see a movie like Jaws, maybe with a younger person who has never seen it before, and you see them experiencing it. Very cool. Now, as I've talked about time and again, we're not thrilled about all the reboots and remakes and remakes, even that, horror rebate. And sequels and prequels and all that stuff. But I do like this story from Entertainment Weekly. Julian Fellowes, who of course is the creator of Downton Abbey, he says there's no reason. Downton Abbey is saying goodbye. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the grand finale, which is now in theaters, and please check it out. It's a beautiful film and a great farewell to the Crawley family and the extended family and the downstairs cast and everybody else. But he says there's no reason it couldn't become a see you later. Fellowes affirms that the film is the conclusion of the saga he's been telling since 2010, and the last time we'll see this generation of characters, but that still leaves the door open for potential prequels, spin-offs, following the children of these characters and more. I could have sworn I said just a couple of weeks ago on this very podcast that I would love to see something involving maybe the children of the character. I wonder if we have we probably recorded that. Let's take a listen. And yes, it's probably time for the franchise to end and let the actors, and they've gone on, in between projects to do other things and put a bow in it. But if they decided that they were going to do Downton, and I'm not big on the reboots and sequels, guys. But if Julian Fellowes or other people of that ilk, some of the people involved in the original series, if they decided somewhere down the lane to do Downton Abbey, the next generation, set it so this one ends in the early 30s. What if you picked it up in the 50s and 60s? Kind of like they did with The Crown, where they kept going through the generations, but you could have Lady Mary, and whether she's played by Michelle Dockery or somebody else, but what if Lady Mary is now 65 or 70 and the kids are grown up and there's a whole new set of problems and generational things and adjusting with the times and dealing with the changes of the world? That would be pretty great, right? Julian Fellowes told Entertainment Weekly, I've never learned to say never anymore because you have to take it back. He says he's not against the idea of revisiting Downton, but in a different period of history. Now, I do remember reading in separate stories that one of the reasons Julian Fellowes wanted to end this particular saga and the story of this particular family in the early 30s is because the real world has always been a part of Downton Abbey, right? From the very beginning in the opening episode when they got news of Titanic sinking, and of course all the World War I plots and things happening in America during the 20s and the Jazz Age and the dawn of sound and film. And he just didn't want these characters to be dealing with the onset and the growing cancer of fascism and the rise of Nazi Germany and how that would have affected them. And he just thought, I don't want to enter that territory. Now, he is also the creator, the showrunner, alongside Sonia Warfield, of The Gilded Age, which has become a huge hit, right, for HBO. And the show picks up threads from Downton, seeing that it takes place in the America in the late 19th century. So that world is where Cora Crawley, played by Elizabeth McGovern, comes from. She was a young American heiress who married into the aristocracy, right, and then helped preserve the Downton estate. So there's a possibility that we would see a younger version of Cora pop up on that show at some point. And Julian Fellowes says, I've also had requests for prequels of different characters. You just have to see what turns up, really. It isn't like being a banker. There isn't a logical progression. You never know what's coming. I love that. And you're welcome that I didn't do any British accents while talking about that. All right, let's take a break. We're going to sing the praises of Portillo's, and then we got a couple of reviews for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about Portillo's. They're known, of course, for their famous Chicago hot dogs with all the freshest and tastiest ingredients, right down to that famous poppy seed bun. Then we have to talk about the legendary chocolate cake. And everybody knows if you've ever been to Portillo's, but if you don't, you never put the cake in the fridge. You have to have it at room temperature. That's how it's delivered to you or handed to you in the restaurant. That's the way you have to taste it. And of course, the menu has everything from the charbroiled burger to Italian beef, to some really good chopped salads. But oh, that chocolate cake, I'm telling you. Now, there are locations throughout the Midwest and in Florida, California, and Arizona. But you can also ship Portillo's anywhere in the United States of America by ordering at portillos.com. That's PORTILLOS.com. PORTILLOS.com.
For bringing justice to the vigilante group known as the French 75, we are here to award Stephen Lockjaw with the Medal of Honor.
You have to understand, Willa.
Me and Mom used to run around and do some real bad shit. They got hurt. Now they're coming after us. Sorry.
I didn't ask for this. That's just how the cards were rolled out for me.
It's not cards. You don't roll cards. It's dice.
Dad, what is wrong with you?
You're right.
Let's go.
You know what freedom is? No fear. Just like Tom Cruise.
All right, that's a little sound from One Battle After Another. You've probably heard a lot about this film. It's getting a ton of publicity as well. It should. Paul Thomas Anderson. A lot of people are saying this is the front runner for the Academy Award as for Best Picture and could get all kinds of other nominations. I will tell you, it is one badass, big time, giant swing, funny as hell, crazy as great film. It's way out there. It's got a lot to say about the current state of American politics and the state of the world today, even though it's set in a completely fictional universe. So the deal with One Battle After Another, we started off in the mid 2000s. There's a radical cell called French 75, and they're doing all these horrible things in the name of justice, but you can't condone what they're doing because they're domestic terrorists in a way. And even if they're fighting against a fascist army, and sometimes there's collateral damage. When I say collateral damage, I mean humans who don't deserve the fate they get. So they're revolutionaries, and that's very complex. They get involved in all kinds of robbing banks and setting political prisoners free. But they're revolutionaries, and they're among the leaders are one Bob Ferguson, played by Leonardo DiCaprio in one of his greatest performances. So eventually, the authorities, led by Sean Penn's Colonel Stephen Lockjaw. That's right, Stephen J. Lockjaw, and he's a hardcore military guy. He's also sadistic and a little bit masochistic and insane. But eventually they break up this terror cell. Many of them are rounded up. Some are put in prison. Others are killed. So Bob Ferguson goes on the run. right, with his infant daughter. Cut to 16 years later, and Bob and his now teenage daughter, Willa Ferguson, played by Chase Infinity, who's amazing. They're living off the grid. They've stayed away from the government. They have different identities, et cetera, et cetera. But then the whole thing comes back right in their faces, and they got to go on the run again. Colonel Lockjaw appears again, and now we get these crazy scenes where Bob Ferguson's sort of like the Big Lebowski with an automatic weapon at times. He's become a stoner, and he's hammered all the time. And he's very, very, lost in the world, but he's also very, very protective of his daughter, who gets kidnapped at some point. He'll do anything to save her. So it becomes this road movie where he's trying to save her, but there's all these other crazy plots going on. Benicio del Toro shows up. By the way, we keep talking about Oscar winners here, by the way. DiCaprio penned del Toro. And Benicio del Toro is a guy who's helping to shelter a lot of immigrants. He plays Sergio St. Carlos, and oh my God, Sensei Sergio. He also runs a dojo. Unbelievably funny performance from Benicio del Toro, just so hilarious. And there's a lot of darkness in this, and it goes on. It's incredible to look at on the big screen. It's a lot packed into it, but it all kind of comes together in a strangely weird and very violent and darkly funny way. And it's so original and so memorable. And it's the kind of film I think is just going to get better upon repeated viewings. It's the best picture, I would think, right now. I got to say, it's the best picture I've seen this year. There are other contenders, but definitely in the top three. One battle after another. And it is so great to see a big ass American movie that should be seen on theaters that's completely original with great actors. And they're all the main cast here. And Tiana Taylor is great. Regina Hall, almost all of them playing. They're characters that could become caricatures if the writing wasn't so sly and clever and the performances weren't so infused with so much energy and electricity and life. So an incredible experience at the movies, one battle after another.
In the hills and valleys, there is a place where your teenager can grow and thrive. My name is Evelyn Wade. I'm the lead youth counselor here at Tall Pines Academy. We use groundbreaking therapeutic techniques to solve the problem of adolescence.
On the home viewing front, we have Wayward on Netflix, and it's another movie about a cult. Although this one is not. This is all pure fiction. We've had a lot of documentary series about cults and cult-like groups. It's set in the peaceful town of Tall Pines, where a newly transplanted police officer, played by Mae Martin, and his pregnant wife, played by Sarah Gadon, arrive in town. Laura is originally from this small town, and in the town of Tall Pines, not Twin Peaks, but Tall Pines. There's a boarding school for troubled youth. And this does play off of what we've seen in real life, often horrific documentary series about these troubled teen academies. It's a whole industry, where they kidnap the children with the parents' permission in the dead of night. They're often 13, 14, 15-year-olds who have had problems, and the parents have, said, there's nothing more we could do. So they send them off to these academies, which are more like boot camps and prisons often, and they're not to the benefits of the kids. Maybe there are some, but a lot of them are kind of horrific. So there's the Tall Pines Academy, the school for troubled youth here in the town of Tall Pines, and there's all kinds of crazy shit going on there. And Toni Collette is Evelyn, who runs the academy. And whether or not it's a cult, leave it to yourself to see. I thought this one was a little heavy-handed and kind of obvious where it was going, but it's juicy. It's entertaining. It's got some crazy ass scenes, and it gives you a pretty satisfying ending that's also deeply disturbing and definitely opens the door for a season 2. So that's called Wayward. It's on Netflix. We got one battle after another in theaters. That's going to do it for this week's podcast. I'm Richard Roeper. Thank you for listening.